Welcome to The Future is Old. I am Peter Caldas.
And I am Rach Angard.
And this is the podcast about the one thing we all become, which is old. So if aging freaks you out, then this show's for you. Rach.
Yes.
Rach. I have a couple questions for you. Yeah.
Oh my God, I can't wait.
So, have you ever tried to figure out which college to go to?
Yes. A long time ago, but yes, I did do that.
And what kind of resources were you using to get there?
Oh gosh, that's a good question. Like my college college counselors at high school, some online guides. There's like a couple books that I looked at, maybe like one or two.
Okay. What about, if you are to become pregnant, or if your friends are pregnant, your parents are pregnant, your family's pregnant, have they used any resources to figure it out?
Yeah. My mom loved what's that book? What to Expect When You're Expecting. That's kind of
famous,
like a classic.
Right?
So famous. I feel like it gets passed down from mother to daughter. I'm sure I'll
Yeah.
get her copy one day.
And what about, you turning 50 and your parents need you as a caregiver? Are there books out there for that?
Not that I'm aware of.
That's
I don't think
right.
I know
There
of any.
aren't. Well, that's why I'm excited about the next guest, because there is literally almost nothing out there that talks about the time after college and before retirement, basically.
Yeah, nothing.
Right? Can you think of anything?
Genuinely, no. Nothing that... I'm just racking my brain. Nothing.
Yeah. So I'm excited about the next guest, Debra Whitman, because she has written such a book. It's called The Second
Cool.
50. And we're going to have a great conversation with her that really walks us through her roadmap for the next 50.
Cool. That's so great. I need that for, both my parents as they're aging and then me one day when I'm aging as well. That'll be very helpful.
Great. Well, let's meet her.
Let's do it.
Our next guest has dedicated her whole career to solving issues related to our country's aging population. She's worked for the Social Security Administration, the U.S. Senate Special Committee on Aging, and now she's the Executive Vice President and Chief Public Policy Officer of AARP, as well as the author of The Second 50. Please welcome to The Future is Old, Debra Whitman.
Hey, Peter. Thanks for having me.
Good to see you, Deb. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you.
I'm glad you're able to join us. And I want to get started by getting just something out in the open here. You work for AARP, and for whatever reason, and I'd love to understand why, when people get their membership card in the mail, it's become this sort of like ageist meme, this punchline. Why are people so nervous about joining AARP?
Well, they're not nervous about joining AARP because it's a great organization. And I actually think it should be a rite of passage, right? I think instead of saying, oh my God, I'm turning 50, it's like, oh, thank God I've made it through the first half. We should have big parties for everybody on their 50th birthday. And I do think that is changing. I do think people are sort of appreciating what midlife has to offer and beyond. But yes, I think one of the funniest things I hear from people is that we find them and we know their birthday, and they're sort of shocked that we're able to track everybody down. But it's a great organization. I think everybody should join it. You get all kinds of discounts on travel. You get the best magazine in the country, most read magazine.
Oh, wow.
All kinds of information. And then we fight for you at the state, local, and federal level, and try to push to make aging easier. So I'm really proud to work there. I think it should be something that everybody wants to aspire to become. And Rach, there actually is no age limit. You can join at any age.
There you go.
Oh my gosh. Okay, I want to join early. I'm an early
Sign
adopter.
up today.
Yeah.
I do want to get into your role there a little bit, Deb, because I know the work you do touches so much of what we're going to talk about, specifically around your book. But could you give us a sense of your role there?
One way to describe it in Washington terms is I'm chief wonk. um, which is, my team are experts in everything from Social Security to Medicare to Medicaid to housing, livable communities. I have a research team where we're really asking people all the time, what do they want? What do they think? What are the issues that face them? That we help to, sort of push forward the debate on these issues.
Mm,
I also have a global thought leadership team, so we try to improve aging all over the world. So
cool.
I love my job. I get to work with really smart people and work with the people that write those magazines and help bring in members and help advocate, but those are their jobs, and I just get to help support them.
Well, while doing your day job, you also wrote a book that I'd love to get into because I think it's something that we all need. It's called The
Mm,
Second 50, and my take of it is this wonderful roadmap for what the second half effectively of your life looks like. And I'm turning 50 in 5 months, so I read
Milestone.
right through it. Thank
Congratulations.
you, thank you. But I'm curious, what happened? What inspired you to write this book?
I guess there's two things. One is the fact that I myself was turning 50. And realized even though I'd spent my career working on this, I still had a lot of questions and things that I wanted to know deeper about. And so the questions that I had myself became the chapters of the book. So I wanted to know, will I live to 50? How long will I live? Will I be healthy? And what are the chances that people are healthy? I looked at some practical questions like how long will I work and will I have enough money? And then I wanted to know some tough questions. Will I lose my memory? And how will I die? And so those became the chapters. But I'll tell you also, Peter, um, I my husband had a massive heart attack at
mm,
48, and luckily was brought to the emergency room. He was hiking on the top of the Flatirons just outside of Boulder,
Mm.
and Boulder Mountain Rescue, thank God for them, raced him down the hill and got him to the emergency room before his heart stopped. And a few stints later, he was fine. But that experience showed me that all these questions about the second half, we don't know how long will it be second 50 or not. That sense of time and whether you have a lot or a little, I think really has influenced both the writing of the book and my life sense.
It's interesting, Deb, because as I think about guidebooks to life, we have things around pregnancy, around childhood, around which college to select,
mhm.
and then somehow we manage to skip over like 30 or 40 years of planning and then get right into retirement. So I feel
Mm,
like
mhm.
you're filling a void. Is that your sense too?
I do, like, I looked on my shelf and I still had my what to expect, when you're expecting and the first years and the, toddler years from my kids were going off to college, and so I had a big pile of college guides. Um, but I also didn't find books on the second 50, and I didn't find books that dealt with all of the issues together, right?
Hmm.
How long you live is going to depend how much money you need is gonna depend on how long you live and if you're healthy, right?
Mm, mhm.
Um, a lot of these things are interconnected, and, I'll say this isn't there's some practical advice. It's not a self-help book in that I really wanted to know what the data even said. What do we know about these periods? What do we know about the questions? What are the issues people are facing? And then because of the work I do, there's a bonus chapter because my job is really to make it easier to age well in America. And for each of these areas, it's just harder than it needs to be. It's hard to have enough money because
Mhm.
not everybody can save through their retirement paycheck. In fact, half of us can't, right? How could we make that better?
I think that it must have been difficult narrowing down your chapters given the universe of work that you do, your wonkiness. But I'm trying to cram it into our brief time together, so maybe we could dive into a couple of those topics.
Sure.
And you sort of segued into something that matters to Next 50, which is basically making it more affordable to age. And you have this great chapter. You have a number of chapters related to that, but this one on economics struck me. And you asked the question, will I have enough money? And
Mhm.
so Rach and I, in preparing for this interview, asked ourselves, will we even see Social Security benefits at the way it's going? Is Rach going to see it? What's your take on that? Will we have enough money, Deb?
Yes, we will have Social Security, period. Full stop.
Oof, thank
It's
goodness.
it's just too important to people. I've paid in every paycheck my entire life since I was a teenager. And so, I absolutely expect to get something back. The the next generations are seeing fewer and fewer, and even my generation, fewer and fewer pensions. And so
Mhm.
having Social Security, which is, a monthly paycheck that increases with inflation, is so, so important, not just for past generations, but for future. And so, yes, it will be there. Now, is there a long term financing problem? Yes, and I talk about that in the book and why it is. It's the only program that's required to self-finance, that all the money
Mm,
coming in has to equal all the money going out. And by 2034-ish, depends on what year it in the estimates by actuaries, the year I turned 64, so it's kind of really important, there won't be enough money coming in to pay full benefits going out.
Hmm.
That's a problem. We can't
Yeah.
cut every single retiree, disability, child survivors
Hmm.
benefits, and so we've gotta deal with this sooner than later, and it's the fact that I've been working on this. So I worked in the Social Security Administration, in the late '90s, and I was still raising all of these issues, and the fact that, 25 years later, we still haven't is kind of a tax on all of us because
Yeah.
we don't know, you don't know, right, Rach,
Yeah.
how much you have to save for your own retirement. So we need to get this fixed, but it is and will remain a really important program for making sure that we do have enough money when we retire.
Deb, do you, without getting into too much of the DC wonkiness, because I know you could go deep given your subject matter expertise, give us a sense of sort of like how are people planning on fixing this?
Mm.
How are we not gonna scale back existing payments after 2034?
There's not enough conversations about this happening in
Mm,
Congress, and we really need presidential leadership as well.
Mm.
I will tell you
Mhm.
this, if through surveys where we ask real people what they want, and we have done that with the Chamber of Commerce, and others, to give people, like, even trade-offs, like, you have to make a choice in the trade-off. What they want is to make sure that they have the benefits that they need in order to pay their bills. They're willing, to pay taxes or think that people who aren't paying taxes on all their wages should pay more. And
Mhm.
so, I'm not seeing a lot of policymaker leadership, but I am seeing a lot of command, a lot of unanimity, and this is between people of different parties and different ages for that type of a solution.
Hmm.
Is there something related to age bias in our policymaking that influences these leaders from sort of not digging in and being champions of this work?
Yes, and having worked on Capitol Hill for a decade, big problems that are years away, they're just not uh, incentivized enough.
Hmm.
And there's not enough leadership. I would even push that to tackle the things that people need to tackle when it's not a crisis.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. There's almost a lack of a sense of urgency given the
Yeah,
horizon.
yeah.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
seemed 2034 seems like a long way away, but the choices that you have each year you wait are smaller.
Yeah.
yeah. I want to talk about another chapter in your book that you title the first one, which is "How Long Will I Live?" Deb, how long are you going to live?
So, the vows that my husband and I said to each other at age 27 were that we will love each other till we're 103. Um,
Oh.
And he's a year older, so there's a little bit of problem when I'm 103 and he's 104. But, I've always sort of thought about a long horizon for myself. His heart attack certainly has me, not not assuming, a infinite horizon of my life. But I've got 2 parents who, my mom just turned 90 last month, and my dad will turn 90 in June.
Wow.
So a long life is not out of the question, and they are both living independently, and of very good health up until the last couple of years. So I do think about the implications for a longer life. I also talk a little bit in the Will I Be Healthy about the advancing science around longevity, which I think is really, really exciting.
Yeah, I want to hear a little bit more of that because I think there's a lot that breaks through that might feel a little snake oily to some when it
Yeah.
comes to the longevity movement. Rach and I often talk about this, but I'm wondering, can you just sort of give us an overview of what you think the longevity movement is and what are
Mm.
sort of some of its promise?
Well, how about this? How about if I tell you how you can live longer
There
and
you
be
go.
healthier
That
and
works.
what the
Cool.
Let's do
what
it.
the research actually shows? Like,
Yeah,
Let's
here's
do
yeah.
it.
here's where if you're gonna spend your time and energy, it's not on supplements, it's these. Okay, so there are 5 healthy habits, that will give you, about a decade longer in life. They are, eat right, exercise, don't drink too much, don't smoke, and maintain a healthy body weight.
Wow.
So so
So
even if you do just one, it's 2 years. So though there's tons of research. Those are the things your doctors have been telling you, do those. But then, Peter, I also found really rich research on the importance of relationships.
mhm.
We know that being lonely and isolated is the same as smoking 12 cigarettes a day. And that one of the different differentiators that a researcher at Harvard found when looking back at people's lives between what healthy 80-year-olds and what unhealthy 80-year-olds did. It wasn't all of those health things, it was the quality of their relationships. And
Wow.
so your friendships matter. And then the last, and I think this is probably a overarching theme of your podcast, is Dr. Becca Levy's work, which I think is
Mm,
just incredible, showing our mindset, how we view aging, and whether it's a time of despair and decrepitude, or if it's a time of wisdom and knowledge and life. Um, you actually live 7.5 years longer if you have a positive view. Your brain volume is higher. You have a lower dementia risk. And I just last night saw a new study that she had where we assume all parts of aging are decline.
right.
And she actually found there's lots of improvement, be it our cognitive ability, our walking speed, a whole bunch of very precise measures, um, often over the course of our second 50,
Mm,
and the probability that you're going to have improvement is also related to your view on what aging is.
cool.
I love,
Can I
Deb, the how you summarized all that because it is overwhelming, and it's overwhelming to figure out where to go first. And there's a
Yeah.
couple, actually, all those things you could probably control to the extent you can. But there's one thing that you talk about in your book that you can't control, and that is the zip code where you live or where you were born, and how that dictates how long you'll live. Can you
Mm,
talk a little bit about that? Because that very much is aligned with what Next 50s works about.
Sure. Yeah, I think one of the things about aging is there's a huge amount of diversity in it, between our health and our longevity. There's huge differences, and I try to dig into what were those, and some of those are expected. So we know the female of a species generally lives longer for
mm,
humans, and for
mhm.
Americans, Rach and I are going to live about 6 years longer than you, Peter.
Yep, that's about
Um,
right.
And that's a combination of biology and behavior. And
Hmm.
we also know that there's differences by education. People with a higher education live about 7 years longer. We know there's differences by income. So people at the top 1% of wealth live more than a decade longer than people at the bottom 1% of
Wow.
wealth. And we know our zip codes sort of incorporate a lot of those things where we live. And so there are massive differences in longevity within cities between my suburb of DC and going downtown to work. I lose about 7 years.
Wow.
Um, and county differences are huge. So Summit County, Colorado, I know you guys are in Colorado, has at least when I looked at the studies, the longest life expectancy.
Huh.
And Oglala Lakota County, in next to the Pine Ridge Reservation, has the shortest, and there's 20 years difference.
Hmm.
And so when we're, talking about gender differences, I can say there's biology. There's no biological differences between these zip codes.
That's right.
And
Yeah.
what is inspiring by that, we can look at it as a problem, and it is. But what's inspiring is that we have the chance to give everybody longer lives. So
Wow.
if what we could do is improve the conditions in Ogallala Lakota County, there's no reason that they can't live as long as Summit County. We have the technology, we have the physicality with our bodies to be able to live that long. So
Yeah.
I look at it as something that we can solve, and we should be solving for.
Cool. Can I go back really fast? I have a quick question.
Sure.
You were talking about relationships, and something that I've been talking about a lot with like my friends and my boyfriend, and even thinking about myself is like as our parents are entering their 60s and their 70s, um, we're seeing a lot of them losing relationships or not forming new relationships or not investing in those. And so something I found that we're all struggling with is how do we talk to our parents about that? Like knowing how important it is. And, I'm very lucky to work here, and my friends are very lucky that I work here so that I can then
They hear it
impart.
nonstop.
Yeah, exactly. So that I can continually pressure them about all of this stuff. But I'm just wondering, like, what is the best way to talk to your parents about that? I think they know about healthy living, they know about like healthy food, but the relationships, I think, really falls by the wayside.
That's a great question, and I'll just tell you that one of the real high a bonus personal, value of writing this book was I sat down with each of my parents and asked them questions about each chapter,
Cool.
and I learned so much from those conversations. So first, I love that you're gonna have a conversation with your parents. So here's what I would talk to them about. One is, how do they, deepen the relationships that they already have? Even when they may lose a friend, maybe the friend has a spouse who is also particularly lonely that,
Mm,
they can, maybe reach out to and help. So look at their current circle. Um, Second is to understand, like, where you can find other people that you might wanna connect with. Volunteering is a fabulous option.
yeah.
Um, Different types of activities. Having regular contact with the same people is how you develop relationships. So
Yeah.
that's a second one. And then third is realizing that not everything has to be a major investment of time and energy.
Hmm.
So, even, talking to somebody at the checkout counter is a way to feel connected.
Yeah.
I interviewed a psychologist who told me that even for homebound people, if they wave from their porch to people walking by, that still is a sense of meaningful connection and
Hmm.
contact.
Wow.
So, not everything has to be big. So those are just a couple ideas, but ask them if
Yeah.
if they notice it, and talk to them about ideas that fit their life.
Wow. This is great.
Deb,
Thanks,
I
Deb.
love that's so great, right, Rach? I mean, it's so
Yeah.
practical. We know so many of our grantees support the kinds of things that Deb is talking about. But
Mhm.
at the end of the day, there's such there's just few steps you could take yourself to
Yeah.
really engage. And I'm gonna take those bits of advice and apply them to my parents now.
Yeah.
Actually, that's really helpful.
I've applied it
Um,
to myself, I'll be honest. Like, my I just became an empty nester,
Mm.
actually, my son is out in Boulder, going to
Oh,
the University of Colorado. So I'm reconnecting with old friends and taking opportunities to spend more time, and invest more in my relationships,
cool.
and, it's kind of fun.
That is fun.
Deb, I've loved this conversation. I want to wrap up and have Rach give you sort of some fun questions. But before I do, I'm curious. We've touched a little bit on the unique opportunities and challenges women face as they age, and you throw in a level of gendered sexism, you throw in caregiving, you throw a whole bunch of things that women uniquely experience, and I'm wondering what were some of those themes from your book that you sort of documented with your data about the unique experience of women in their next 50.
Yeah, this is something I've cared passionately about my whole career, not just because I'm a woman, but because if we think about aging, it is a woman's issue. Not, the longevity is much more. As I said, we live about 7 years longer.
Mm.
We've reached retirement with less money um,
Mm.
because we've faced. Uh, Differences in pay our whole lives. And sometimes we think about, or we hear in the news about, how many cents per the dollar women make. But if you add that up over the course of a lifetime, it's huge. So Hispanic
Yeah.
women make $1 million less over the course of their life
Hmm.
than white men. And so if you
Whoa.
think about what they're going to have for their social security check or for their retirement savings, it's going to be less, and they're going to have
Yeah.
to use that money for longer periods of time. And so it is something I think about a lot. And we also know 3 out of 5 caregivers are women. That's
Mm.
not to say all of them. My brother-in-law was a fabulous caregiver for both of his parents. So shout out to the boys for that. Um, but often women take time out of the workforce to care for their children or to care for an older adult, and then they're not saving or contributing to Social Security and then face long
Yeah.
term financial consequences too. So
Wow.
if we can, if I can solve the world to make sure that 80-year-old and 90-year-old and 100-year-old women are healthy and financially secure, then I've solved it for everybody.
Wow.
Um, so that's kind of how I think about it, Peter.
I love how you think about it, and as a boy who is now a new caregiver, I think of my parents. I think that it's important that men be okay with caregiving. There's almost an emotional barrier that I had to go through in order to accept that, you know what, it's okay to take care of your loved ones in a way that is typically perceived as being somehow gendered or
Mm.
feminine or
Mhm.
and I'm glad to see more men and actually more organizations like AARP talk about male caregivers. But we have a lot more work to do there because, the women in our lives shouldn't be um, carrying the burden of this. So thank you for for acknowledging the boys in the room.
Well, and it's not a small part. Again, I said 3 out of 5 are women. That means, 2 out
Yeah,
of 5, 40% are
Yeah,
men.
man.
And
yeah,
so,
yeah, yeah.
and they provide other types of support for the women caregivers. But, caregiving is the issue, I think, of our time, and it affects, almost every family at some point. And either it'll affect you because you need care or you because you're gonna need to give care.
Hmm.
Well, Deb, let's talk about some other fun questions that we do here on the podcast. Rach, why don't you take over?
My turn. Okay, Deb, we've got 3 final wrap-up questions for you. The
Oh,
first one is, what do you not miss about being younger?
Um, I th I think I'm more comfortable with myself. So I can take a step back, receive criticism, think
Mm.
through what my talents and strengths are and how to best use them. I just have a better, I'm more comfortable with myself.
Cool.
I think that's hard when you're young to sort of know yourself and to accept all your good and bad parts.
Yeah. We were just talking with another guest about humility, and that just seems like a big theme where it's like that seems to come up the more and more as you get older.
Yeah, the best part about writing the book, was the parts that I thought I knew that I talked to an expert and they tell me I was wrong.
Uh,
And
uh,
no, because I love learning
yeah.
and part of like, "Oh, wow, yes, I'm so glad I spoke to you," um,
Yeah.
was really rewarding for me.
Cool. It kind of rocks to be wrong. Okay, next question is what is the
It rocks
goal?
to be corrected before you write the book, right?
That's a good point. That's a good point. Yeah, before you publish it. You don't want it to go to
Before you
publishing and
publish.
then there's fact checkers on your butt.
Yes, yes.
Okay, our second question is what is the gold in getting old?
I think the gold is, and this came through the research too, we're actually happier when we age. People think that aging is a time of where people are miserable, but the data is that it's in our middle life that we're most miserable.
Mm.
And that happiness actually increases. And even some our surveys where we ask people, do you have health issues? Yes. Are you healthy? Yes. So people's perceptions about what kind of what they'll put up with and what they expect change over our lives as we age. So I think the gold is, you know what? It might get better.
Hmm, that's great.
Beautiful. Love it. Okay, final question for you. Go ahead and finish this sentence for us. I will know the future is old when.
When everybody has their AARP 50th birthday party and post on social media, "I just got my card," because they're so excited that they couldn't wait. So I'm gonna steal your intro.
I love it.
Love it, Deb. Deb, listen, thank you so much for spending time with us on The Future is Old. I'm wondering if people wanted to find you where you're speaking or learn more about your book, where can they go?
So go to your bookseller. The book again is The Second 50 Answers to the Seven Big Questions in Midlife and Beyond. And it's just about to come out in paperback.
Ooh.
All proceeds go to the AARP Foundation. And so you're doing good by purchasing a book.
Amazing. Deb Whitman, thank you so much for joining us. Thanks for your time.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Deb.